What is up, fellas? We are back for another UFC predictions video, this time for UFC Fight Night Louisville. Cannonier versus Imavov. Let's just jump right in, fellas. Kicking us off at women's strawweight, Rayan Dos Santos versus Pooja Tomar. Um, I'm going with Rayan Dos Santos here. I think she just has a more diverse skill set. Pooja Tomar pretty good in the KO, but she's kind of KO'd some cans basically. I believe she's 6-0 in the KO, which is nice to see in a women's fighter, but I don't think it does her any favors because a lot of these ladies are fucking terrible. Basically every single one of them. But one thing I noticed when I was looking at both of these fighters is she does really bad against people with submission threat. And Rayan Dos Santos has a pretty diverse set of wins, a decent finisher, I would say. But you see a lot of her wins coming by way of sub, and I don't think Pooja Tomar really has any kind of takedown defense at all. Not that Rayan Dos Santos necessarily has a takedown, but I think she'll have an easier time getting Tomar down to the ground and submitting her than Tomar will KOing Rayan Dos Santos. So I'm leaning Rayan Dos Santos here by submission in like round 2. That's my early lean for that fight. Moving up to bantamweight, Cody Stamann versus Taylor Lapilus. I'm going with Taylor Lapilus here. I just think he's a little bit too dynamic and a little bit too well-rounded for Cody Stamann at this point in his career. Cody Stamann, strong guy, a little bit of power in his hands, decent wrestling, but recently he's kind of struggled to get it to the ground. He hasn't fought in a while, and I just don't think he's going to be able to get as close to Taylor Lapilus as he needs to lock his arms and get a takedown. And I also don't think if he takes down Taylor Lapilus, he's really going to have all that much success at keeping him down there. And on the feet, Lapilus is a very dynamic striker, very rangy. I think Cody Stamann's going to struggle. He's almost at a 10-inch reach disadvantage here, and his stand-up's not even that good to begin with. And I think he's just going to struggle greatly wading through that space to get to Taylor Lapilus. I think Taylor Lapilus here probably going to get himself a decision win here over Cody Stamann. Cody Stamann is tough, though. We'll see. Moving up to women's strawweight, Eduarda Moura versus Denise Gomes. Fellas, Eduarda Moura, not too shabby of a fighter. 10 wins, 0 losses, 9 finishes. Pretty diverse set of finishes here. Denise Gomes, hit and miss in her UFC career. She knocked out Yasmin Yaragui in like 10 seconds, which in my opinion was kind of a fluke. It's not like a replicatable thing she could do. I think if she fought Yasmin Yaragui 10 times, she'd lose 9 of them. She knocked out Bruna Brazil, but Bruna Brazil isn't all that good. And if there's one thing Eduarda Moura, God, that's hard to say fast. Eduarda Moura can do it is get a takedown. And Denise Gomes in her career, you've seen like she can shoot a takedown of her own, and she can kind of defend a takedown. But if she gets taken down and she's flat, she's not getting up. And Eduarda Moura has nice submissions. I think she will be able to get Denise Gomes down. Maybe she won't get her down on the first attempt, but I think she'll get her down on the second and third. And once she does, I don't think Denise Gomes is going to be able to find a way back to her feet. And I think Eduarda Moura will be able to latch up a submission and finish Denise Gomes in like rounds 2 or 3. That's what I'm feeling right now. Moving up to bantamweight, John Castaneda versus Daniel Marcos. I'm going with Daniel Marcos here. John Castaneda, man, I just don't feel like he's very good. He's basically just kind of a scrappy striker. He has some takedowns, but normally he doesn't really mix them in that much. And I don't think if he does, I don't think he's going to be able to take down Daniel Marcos at all. I think Daniel Marcos is just a little bit too elusive on the feet. He's a very clean kickboxer, nice calf kicks, pretty disciplined with the hands. I just think he's going to outpoint John Castaneda in this fight and win a decision. I just think he's going to be on the outside, crushing calf kicks in, sticking behind his 1-2. I think Daniel Marcos here is going to win a decision over John Castaneda. I feel like I was a little dismissive of Castaneda. He's decent. Like, he's overall a good fighter. I just think Daniel Marcos on the feet is a little bit better, and I think we're gonna see this fight play out majority on the feet. And I would definitely give Daniel Marcos the edge here. Uh, Daniel Marcos in his career, he's had some good wins. The Davy Grant performance was a little bit meh. I don't feel like he should have gotten that win. I mean, but they gave it to him. And then he's coming off of I believe, a no contest over Arichi Lang off the top of my head, or Alaton Haley, Arichi Lang. Um, Hit him low, but he was destroying him in that fight with the hands. I'm gonna go with Daniel Marcos. I think he's gonna win a decision here over John Castaneda. Moving up to women's flyweight, Andrea Lee versus Monta De La Rosa. I've been 50-50 on this fight this entire time. I just don't really know because both of these ladies are pretty trash. Both have 9 losses. Both have not been able to pick up a real win lately. But I think I'm going to go with Andrea Lee. I think she's just a little bit of a better striker. She puts more out there to be judged in most fights. She puts out a little bit more volume. She already has a decision win over Monta De La Rosa, which I think will help her confidence, which she does need help with because she's coming off of, I believe, 4 losses in a row. Something like that. It's a lot. 4-3. 4. Youch. Her last one was Cynthia Calvillo. Calvillo's pretty terrible, but she was ranked at one point. Monta De La Rosa, similar story. No real wins. The draw with Mara Bueno Silva is kind of nice, but I mean, after Bueno Silva's last performance for the belt, I mean, are we really rating that highly? I just think Andrea Lee is a little bit of a better striker. I think her takedown defense is okay, but I don't think Monta De La Rosa has that much of a takedown threat as is. Uh, I think I'm going to lean Andrea Lee here. Part of me wanted to pick Monta De La Rosa because she's a small underdog, and I kind of see this fight as basically a 50-50. Um, but I'm gonna go Andrea Lee. I think she'll just be more active on the feet here in this fight. And I think she might squeak out like a split decision win here over Monta De La Rosa. We'll see though. This fight's just weird. Flip a coin. Who really knows? Moving up to bantamweight, Brad Katana versus Jesse Butler. Minus 725 on Brad Katana is a little bit fucking crazy, eh? I'm going with Brad Katana over Jesse Butler just because I don't think Jesse Butler really is UFC level. Short notice debut, up a weight class, got knocked out by Jim Miller. But Jim Miller, I don't really like the loss to him all that much. I think Brad Katana is going to be a lot faster than Jim Miller. The only thing about Jesse Butler in this fight is, okay, this fight's at bantamweight. So he's moving down 2 weight classes? That's interesting. I don't know if he'll make that because he's a lot bigger than Brad Katana. 5'10 to 5'6. Jesse Butler has almost 10 inches of reach over Brad Katana. He has 8.5. But I just think the skill level of Brad Katana, he's a lot more experienced. I think he's fought better opponents. I think he's beat better opponents than Jesse Butler. I think he'll be able to overcome the size discrepancy. Granted, the line at minus 725 is a little bit horrific. I don't think Brad Katana should be minus 725 over anybody in the UFC. So I would not bet this fight personally. But I think Brad Katana, he can mix it up if he wants to. He's got cardio for 3 rounds. He's pretty active in his fights. Not a lot of power, but I don't think that'll matter that much. I think Brad Katana probably is going to get a decision win here over Jesse Butler, or maybe a late stoppage. I don't really know. Jesse Butler, he's just kind of fought bums on the regional circuit. He's really not that great. Big guy for bantamweight. If he beats Brad Katana, he might actually be a problem because his frame is huge for bantamweight, honestly. But yeah, I'm going with Brad Katana. I think by decision. I think he's just a higher skilled mixed martial artist just about everywhere. But we'll see. I think he'll be able to get on the inside of Jesse Butler and land his shots that he needs to win this fight. Moving up to welterweight, Charles Radke versus Carlos Prates. This is another fight I was a little bit 50-50 on. Actually, who did I take? Oh, I literally wrote question mark Prates 50-50 Radke question mark. In my head, I think Charles Radke is bad, generally speaking. He knocked out Gilbert Urbina, which I think is a good win to get, but he looked mid against Blood Diamond, especially because Blood Diamond now recently has been knocked out on the regional circuit cold. Taking him to a decision isn't the greatest look, but I wasn't super impressed with Carlos Prates in his UFC debut against Trevin Giles, because Trevin Giles was really landing straight shots on Carlos Prates at will. He was getting jabbed up bad in that fight. And he looked fadeable. I'll put it that way. He looked like a guy that could be faded in the future. I just don't think now is the fight to fade him. Maybe Charles Radke goes for a takedown, but he hasn't really shown the urgency to do that. Maybe against this opponent he will. And I also Charles Radke doesn't really throw very great straight punches, which was what was getting to Carlos Prates in the Trevin Giles fight was straight punches. Trevin Giles was catching him like I cannot emphasize how much Trevin Giles was catching Carlos Prates with his straight punches. Obviously, Carlos Prates still caught him in one, but it was a bad look for me, especially against a guy who's so highly touted as like a striker. But I don't think Charles Radke is the guy who's going to be able to take advantage of that so much. I'm very small lean here on Carlos Prates. I think he's the more dangerous striker. I think he'll put out more strikes with more danger on them. And Charles Radke's just kind of a guy. He's kind of a I don't know, big hook kind of guy, not so much a straight shot guy. And I feel like Carlos Prates will be able to see the hooks of Charles Radke and counter him, similar to the way he countered Trevin Giles. And I think he's going to put out Charles Radke. But we'll see. I think Charles Radke can maybe shoot a takedown, maybe try and get a submission. I don't know. We'll see. This is an interesting fight to me because I'm curious to see where both of these guys stand. Closing out the prelims at lightweight, Thiago Moises versus Ludovic Klein. Guys, I'm going with Thiago Moises here. I just think Ludovic Klein, I think, is a really good dynamic striker, but Thiago Moises is just kind of that guy where you put like an unranked guy up against him and he just beats them, basically. Thiago Moises, very well rounded, good hooks, decent striking, good defense, really good leg kicks. Showed good leg kicks in his last fight. He's actually a BJJ guy who's capable of getting takedowns. He shoots and he actually gets takedowns. And he has a submission threat. I just think Thiago Moises all around is a little bit too good for the style of Ludovic Klein. I think Thiago Moises is going to be able to get the takedowns on Ludovic Klein. And even if he doesn't, I think him shooting on Klein a couple of times will sort of stagnate Klein's dynamic striking a little bit. Klein's a guy who likes his kicks a lot, but you don't want to throw a naked kick against a guy who really wants to take you down. So it might put a little bit of hesitance into Ludovic Klein. And I think that's where Thiago Moises can also take advantage on the feet. I'm going to go Thiago Moises here. I think he'll squeak out a decision here over Ludovic Klein. I think maybe like a 29-28 Moises, but we'll see though. Ludovic is a dangerous striker, and he has a little bit of grappling, but I think Moises outweighs him on the grappling substantially. And I think on the feet, I would give the edge to Klein, but I don't think it's like a landslide. So yeah, I'm going to slight lean Thiago Moises by decision here in this fight. Moving up to welterweight, Miguel Beza coming back after a 2-year layoff versus Punahele Soriano. Battle of two guys who always disappoint me, so I'm really curious of how this is going to go. Miguel Beza, big guy for welterweight. Punahele Soriano, former middleweight, making this cut. I don't like this cut for Soriano, man. He's like a dense fucking dude. I think this cut might kill him. I think he might miss weight, honestly. But we'll see. Miguel Beza, very hit and miss. Both these guys are hit and miss. What am I talking about? But I was really thinking about picking a Punahele Soriano underdog pick. I still fucking might. I don't even know. Because both of these guys have just lost to absolute street urchins. Like, dude, we're getting KO'd by Andre Fialho in round 1, dude. That's despicable. That is a despicable loss. But then he takes Chaos Williams into the 3rd round. He still gets knocked the fuck out, but he takes him into the 3rd round. And then Punahele just lost to Dustin Stoltzfus. Roman Kopilov, oh fucking well, dude. Brendan Allen, oh well. Nick Maximov, I think Punahele probably should have won that fight on damage. I don't hate the losses of Soriano as much as I hate Beza getting KO'd by fucking Andre Fialho in one round. This is a hard fight for me. I really couldn't. What do I have written down here? I have Beza 170, 5 question marks around the name Soriano. So you can see how undecided I am here. Um, I just think this cut's gonna suck for Soriano, and I think Miguel Beza is better on the feet, but he has the chin of somebody with fucking I don't know, Crohn's disease. Like he seems to just get obliterated. Like if Fialio's killing you in round one, dude, and he's 2-1 favorite. I don't know. I'm gonna go with Miguel Beza. I'm going with Beza because I don't know what Soriano I'm gonna see. Basically, I don't really know what Beza I'm gonna see, but I know he's gonna make the weight and not die doing so. Like Punahele Soriano could have a great weight cut, show up and look better than he ever has, and obliterate Miguel Beza. It could happen. Or Punahele Soriano sucks himself down to 170, rips his gas tank, destroys his durability, and just looks like shit. And Miguel Beza styles on him because I think he's a better striker. So I'm going to lean Miguel Beza here. This is a 50-50 as far as I'm concerned. Neither guy is very trustworthy at all. I'm going to go Miguel Beza by decision, but I'm saying this now. It would not surprise me at all if Miguel Beza just gets flatline KO'd in 2 minutes. Because if Andre Fialho can do it, I would bet my life Soriano fucking can if he lands. Moving up to middleweight, Julian Marquez versus Zachary Reese. I'm going to be going with Zachary Reese because I think Julian Marquez sucks. His wins are bad. Did not mean to do that. We're going back. I meant to open his profile here. Yeah, Sam Alvey, Maki Pitolo, losing to Alessio Di Chirico. And then in his last 2 fights, he has been horrifically, brutally KO'd. I'm just taking Zachary Reese. I know Zachary Reese got KO'd by Cody Brundage, but it was a slam KO. It was a fluke, not a replicable finish. I think Julian Marquez is just going to run himself onto something and get himself hurt in this fight. I don't trust his durability so much anymore. I just think Zachary Reese, I think he's the guy who's going to finish this fight. I don't think Julian Marquez is. He's got Zachary Reese, nasty submissions. Julian Marquez, decent grappler, occasionally. If he decides he wants to even consider a takedown. Instead, he kind of just gets lulled into the stand and bang with Gregory Rodriguez and stand and bang with Marc-Andre Barriault, and that shit does not go well. Yeah, I'm going with Zachary Reese here. I think he's the side. I think he's going to get a finish over Julian Marquez, perhaps a TKO. Perhaps Marquez's chin is well and truly shot, and Zachary Reese just chins him. I just think he's the side here. Much bigger guy, a lot more reach. I think he's a better striker. And I think he has a much more proficient submission threat than Julian Marquez. Also, he's an underdog, plus 115. Moving up to middleweight, Bruno Ferreira versus Dustin Stoltzfus. I'm going to go with Bruno Ferreira because I don't think Dustin Stoltzfus is built to take an overhand right. Stoltzfus looked pretty good in his last fight against Soriano. Was able to get the takedowns, was able to get the submission. Honestly, I kind of see Bruno Ferreira as a kind of a similar style to Punahele Soriano for Dustin Stoltzfus. The only thing is, I think Bruno Ferreira is a little bit better in the grappling than Punahele Soriano is. I also think he's a little bit more dangerous of a KO puncher. Yeah, Bruno Ferreira, I think, is just going to knock Dustin Stoltzfus out in like 3 minutes. Yeah, I'm going Bruno Ferreira. I think he gets a knockout in round 1 over Dustin Stoltzfus. I was trying to gaslight myself into maybe. I'm not picking Dustin Stoltzfus. What the fuck am I even coping about? Moving up to bantamweight, Raul Rosas Jr. versus Ricky Turcios. I'm going with Raul Rosas Jr. here over Ricky Turcios. Ricky Turcios, Fun fights on the Ultimate Fighter, but very, very disappointing fights in the UFC. He really has not looked all that good. Beat Kevin Natividad, who sucks. Um, Amin Zahabi, in completely embarrassing performance here. And Zahabi's not exactly God on fucking legs, but he's, I mean, Raw Rosas just KO'd Terrence Mitchell, right? Just blew him up. Yeah, I mean, his only loss is to Christian Rodriguez, and C Rod is a fucking weight bully, but he is a lot stronger, I would reckon, than Ricky Tercios. Ricky Tercios' grappling defense, he's a lot more scrambly and a lot more rolly. He's slippery, is how basically I would describe his grappling defense. But I think Raul Rosas Jr. in this fight is going to be the stronger guy. I think he's learned his lesson from the Christian Rodriguez fight. I don't think he's going to blow his entire wad in the first round. I also think he's looked a lot better on the feet. Like KOing Terrence Mitchell the way he did, as fast as he did, I think is pretty impressive. And Ricky Turcios, I don't know. I'm going with Raul Rosas Jr. I think he's going to be able to take down Ricky Turcios. I don't know if he'll submit him though. Maybe like a Raul Rosas Jr. decision win here. Maybe a TKO. I'm undecided on the method of victory, but I do trust Raul Rosas Jr. I think he's stronger. I think he's a better grappler. I think on the feet, although Ricky Turcios does put out a lot of volume, I don't think there's really any pop behind any of his shots. Yeah, I gotta go Raul Rosas Jr. here. Moving up to the co-main event at light heavyweight, Dominic Reyes versus Dustin Jacoby. I'm going with Dustin Jacoby. I think Dominic Reyes at this point in his career has taken a life-altering amount of damage, damn near unrecoverable from. He's also coming back. I think he had surgery. He had like blood clots in his legs. I mean, poor Dominic Reyes, man. Uh, the last fight, Ryan Spann KO'd him with just a straight jab, flatlined him. Yuri Prohaska broke like every bone in his face with a spinning elbow. Horrific. Jan Blachowicz KO'd him as well. He's just taken so much damage, and I just don't think the confidence will be there, and I don't think the chin will be there. Dustin Jacoby, on the other hand, he's a guy, proficient kickboxer, very skilled guy. You look at some of these losses here. Khalil Roundtree, he beat Khalil Roundtree. This is one of the worst robberies I've ever seen. Anytime I tape Dustin Jacoby or Khalil Roundtree, I always watch that fight back, and I'm always surprised with how much of a fucking robbery that fight is. Azamat Mirzakhanov caught Jacoby, dropped him a couple of times. Jacoby worked his way back into that fight in the third round, but just couldn't get a finish. Um, and Alonzo Minifield, kind of a similar thing. Basically, he was winning the entire fight, um, but then he'll get caught and he'll get hurt. But the thing about Jacoby is, I think for Dominic Reyes to beat him, I think he needs to flatline him. Because unlike a Minifield or a Mirzakhanov, Dominic Reyes doesn't really have the durability here. I don't think to go 3 rounds with Dustin Jacoby. If Dustin Jacoby sits down on a punch, I think Dominic Reyes is going to fucking die. Um, but I do think Dustin Jacoby might extend Dominic Reyes deeper into the fight than like a Ryan Spann, because Dustin Jacoby's a very tit for tat guy. He likes a technical kickboxing match, and if a guy has power, he doesn't really like to plant and throw very heavy shots. Um, but I don't think Dominic Reyes has the power of a guy like Minifield or Mirzakhanov or even Roundtree. Yeah, I just think Dustin Jacoby's gonna chin Dominic Reyes in like round two. It's kind of what I'm feeling. Maybe like a feel out round in round one. Jacoby works the calf, works the body a little bit, stays on the outside. And I think he's probably just going to eventually just decide, I'm just going to throw something. And if it gets anywhere near Reyes's chin, he will simply faint. So I'm going with Jacoby. I think TKO. Moving up to the main event at middleweight, Jared Cannonier versus Nasruddin Imavov. Guys, I'm going with Nasruddin Imavov, which I feel like was going to be a hot take, but he's actually the favorite. Cannonier, man, Cannonier's good. He's a physical specimen, good power. perennial contender in this division. But man, he's coming off of a surgery. He's coming off of a big layoff. He's 40 fucking years old. 40. And he looks like that. Um, my biggest gripe with Cannonier, and the reason I just don't trust him right now, is because his last win, I believe, Marvin Vettori destroyed Vettori. Hurt Vettori throughout the entire fight. But there's one thing I noticed in this Vettori fight that just scares the shit out of me. Guys, Vettori almost knocked him out flatline cold in the first round. Marvin Vettori almost knocked him out cold in the first round. Almost had him sleeping in the first round. Marvin Vettori almost had you sleeping. I'm horrified at that. I'm absolutely mortified. Especially coming back off of a fucking surgery, long layoff at this age, it just scares me, dude. Cannonier is really good. He's really technical. He's very fast. He's very patient. Imavov, his last win against Roman Dolidze was horrible. Very fucking lame fight. I feel like Nasruddin Imavov had Dolidze finished like 10 times in that fight. There's no way the shit should have went to a decision. Kind of embarrassing on Imavov. He was beating Chris Curtis pretty decisively, who's a pretty nice boxer. Lost to Sean Strickland off the couch, which I don't think is I think it's a little bit of, it's not like a bad loss, but Strickland off the couch on like fucking a week's notice isn't exactly a good loss, especially over 5 rounds. But Sean Strickland is a tricky style for a lot of these guys. Beat Joaquin Buckley, knocked out Edmund Shabazian. I just think even though Imavov isn't exactly like a disgusting finisher or anything, just the image of Jared Cannonier getting hurt by Marvin Vettori has been playing in my head nonstop since this fight has been announced. And I don't know if Jared Cannonier, because at this age, guys, I'm telling you, there's just going to be a point in Jared Cannonier's career where he's going to get scheduled for a fight and he's going to show up and he's just not going to look the same. He's just not going to look the same. It happens to everybody, especially at this age. Like one fight, he's just going to show up and it's not going to be there. Kind of like Edson Barboza in his last fight. He just looked like a ghost compared to the guy who fought Sadiq Youssef. I'm just a little unsure. I also think if somebody's going to shoot and get a takedown, it'll be Imavov. He's got a little bit of grappling. I don't know. I'm going with Nasruddin Imavov here. I think he's going to get a TKO win over Jared Cannonier. We'll see, though. I'm not super confident in that, clearly. I mean, the line basically has these guys as evens. But I'm trusting in Imavov more. I think the 5 rounds benefits Cannonier. But I think Imavov will be dangerous for at least the first 3. Yeah, I'm going to go with Imavov here. I think he's actually going to hurt Jared Cannonier and get him out of there. But we'll see, though. We'll see. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I hope you enjoy. And I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.